Good morning everyone and welcome back. Today's video is a true crime video, and those of you that are new, this is my third video for Jennifer's True Crime Corner. And today is going to be two different, well, no, I'm sorry. We're going to feature two different things. One is it's basically about the Krista Harrison case, and we're going to also talk about the man that committed the crime before, and it's all kind of tied into it, so it might be a little long today. I do apologize. I wanted to make sure I got all the information that I could get. I use Wikipedia, and I use Google, but Google sometimes leads me to Wikipedia, and it also leads me to YouTube. So I went and looked this up, and this was kind of the last second. I did this last night only because the case that I was going to do, I just didn't feel comfortable with. Don't ask me why. I don't really feel it. I don't want to say I don't feel comfortable with this one, but it just kind of tore at my heartstrings, and I'll explain later. Explain as I go. Now, the Krista, some of you may remember this from watching the old Forensic Files case, or Forensic Files TV show that, of course, now it's been rebooted. Now, I'm not sure if the older version of Forensic Files is on Netflix. I tried to look last night to see, because when I was looking this up, it appeared on Forensic Files in the 5th season, and the title was Material Evidence. And I tried to see if it was there, but the only one I could come across was the rebooted version of Forensic Files, which just came out. And I haven't tried to look, because again, I've tried to look up the actual old TV show to see if it was still available. And if it is, I apologize. I probably looked right at it and didn't even pay attention. So, let's get into this. And thank you for watching. And now this is about Krista Leah Harrison. She was 11 years old. She was murdered on July 17th, 1982 in Marshallville, Ohio. Now, as I was going through the videos that I found on YouTube, Marshallville is a really small town. Everybody knows everybody. And, it was took me by, well, I don't want to say by shock, by surprise. But, this is a small town that, again, everybody knew everybody. So this came as a kind of a shock to me, because who in their right mind would do this when there are people out there that know could know, basically know everybody. Now, the case remained unsolved for 2 years before they did eventually convict Robert Anthony Buell for her murder in 1984. Now we're going to start at the beginning. She was 11 years old, and she was born in Orrville, Ohio. Now, she'd been picking up aluminum cans at a park that was 100 yards from her home, and she was with a friend, and it was reported by her friend that a man came that a man between 25 and 35 years of age with shoulder length hair drove up to Krista and forced her into the vehicle, and he drove away. And her companion described the van as brown or dark red in color and had round windows on the sides near the rear. Now, I've never seen any of those vans. Of course, I was little at that age, so let me see, 77. I was only 2 years old, so I don't know what kind those, I've never seen the vans back then from then, so I wouldn't know what that looks like. But she was kidnapped. After she was kidnapped, the volunteers searched for her body across Marshallville. It was initially believed that the man would demand ransom for Krista's return, and of course there wasn't a ransom. Then 6 days later, her remains, which were already in an advanced state of composition, were discovered in weeds a few feet off the side of a scarcely traveled road in Holmes County, Ohio. Now, this is what kind of pulls at my strings. Number one, she's 11 years old. This case kind of, tore at my heartstrings because number one, she's around the same age as little dude. I'm not saying anything would happen to my little dude, but any case that involves children just kind of tears at my heartstrings. Just because it's just very, very, it's sad. And there are times that even if I'm watching a show on TV that involves, children as, victims of this kind of crime, I don't watch them just because it just bothers me. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it bothers me because it's just that I don't know how else to describe why it bothers me, but it does. It bothers me. I guess as a mom, I'm just kind of, it would bother me. Let's see. She had been strangled and sexually assaulted with a vibrator. Okay. And she had a large plastic bag that had been wrapped around her legs. Now, I'm still trying to understand why there would be a large plastic bag wrapped around her legs. To me, that makes no sense. I don't understand that at all whatsoever. I was left baffled because I could not, for the life of me, get it. What is the purpose of the plastic bag around her legs? That makes no sense to me. Because the condition that her remains were in, they weren't able to identify her body until her father was able to confirm that it was his daughter. Now, there was a Budweiser towel and a bloody car seat box. And bear with me 1 minute. Okay, there was a towel with a Budweiser logo and a car seat box that was bloody and a wad of Harrison's hair that was found in the vicinity of the dump site, along with a pair of gloves, a plaid shirt, and a pair of jeans. Now, they examined the remains and indicated that the body had been subjected to high temperatures, which was likely the consequence of her body being in the vehicle for a long period of time. Now, my question is, okay, why would you dump why would somebody dump a pair of jeans and a plaid shirt and a pair of gloves, knowing that it possibly could, some kind of trace evidence, I'm assuming. Now, like I say, I'm not a forensic scientist, so please, don't take my opinion to be one of those expert opinions, because I'm not an expert. I am by no chance and by no means an expert on these kinds of things. I just like true crime, period. Um, so I am just trying to figure out, why somebody would leave, all that evidence that close to where they found her. Now, when they get into the investigation, and this is where the other part of my whole video comes in, where I will tell you about the killer also. Now, they found the towel. They've also found a distinctive number of nutmeg or orange colored polyester fibers. And they were, oh, good grief. Where is this symbol? Oh, there it is. They were put under a microscope and found to be triobal shape. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming triangular. I'm don't know what that means, guys. If you know what triobal means, feel free to comment below. I've never heard of that word before. I didn't. Okay. And they were likely from a type of carpet. So, again, now there's a connection. Now, this is not the first body that's found that these fibers have been found on. These same exact kind of fibers. So bear with me, because it gets a little strange. It gets a little, this web gets weaved a little bit more than what it already is. They also found similar fibers on another body of another 12-year-old girl named Tina Harmon. And she was raped and murdered 8 months earlier. Now, there had already been a man convicted of this. Now, I'm assuming this man has been acquitted because of, the fact that this case is, going to end up being connected somehow, some way. Gosh, I'm getting, my eyes are kind of seeing. I have, you all are going to laugh and pause right there. I have two symbols that are together, M and N, and I'm getting them mixed up. So bear with me as I pause it every now and then to make sure I'm putting it on the right symbol. So, I don't know, if he's already been incarcerated. This guy that, had been accused and been convicted for this has already been incarcerated when Krista was abducted. Now, this is when the authorities begin to consider that Harrison's, that the cases were possibly done by the same person, because number one, they were sexually violated and strangled, and they were killed in the same county. So, that's where they start to kind of start connecting this. They don't fully connect it right away, but they do. They start connecting this, and they had the same sort of fibers that basically were linked to the same, kind of crime. The bag that had been found wrapped around her legs, around Krista's legs. Again, I'm trying to understand what the purpose is of having her legs wrapped in plastic. I don't understand that. I will never understand that. I'm just so confused. That was one thing that just kind of left me like, why would he do that? What is his purpose of, doing that? That just confuses me. Um, the plastic had distinctive folding patterns. I guess, like, you know how when you get a package in the mail from, wherever, Amazon or whatever, sometimes Amazon does this, sometimes they don't. The way that they fold things, that's, that, and it leaves a distinctive, crease or whatever. So that's the kind of thing that they were, looking at. Um, they later found they traced the bag back to a factory in Pioneer, Ohio. Now, these bags were used for a car seat, a type of car seat, which was black. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but okay. Um, I'm totally lost here. I've misplaced where I'm doing this symbol. Oh my gosh, it's all confetti. So, yeah. um, uh, so bear with me, guys. I'm not intentionally being dingy, and I'm not intentionally like going off topic. It's like I go to put, see, like, now this is not going to. There we go. Um, as I said, my M's and N's are like right next to each other, so it's sometimes I get confused and I can't. I don't want to specify. I'm afraid I'm going to put it on the wrong symbol. um, okay, these seats were sold through Sears and were only available for a brief amount of time. I don't know if you guys remember how, and if you're as old as I am, and probably remember this, you were able to like place catalog orders and they would come through the mail before UPS became really big popular and doing the doing taking over that part of the of um so, and this of course is back in uh 1982. So think about it, that's what, 40 some years ago. Yes, I'm showing my age. um, Now, they were only available for a brief amount of time. Now, the box that the seat came in had Krista's blood. The sales records of the seats were examined, and they to search for any Ohio residents. Now, there was 23 people in northern Ohio that had purchased this type of seat, but none of them owned a van that had matched the description of the abduction, or it matched the description of the van from the abduction. So obviously, I'm trying to figure out, it. Obviously, he bought one at some point. So how did they not know that he was on this list? I mean, he could have been on the list. I'm trying to see. There's things that I don't understand. If he was on the list, did they just not, you know, question him or narrow it down? I don't. Of course, they don't give you answers for that. So it's kind of like, okay. Now, now this is interesting. There is a quote that I not sure who this was to, but this is a quote that he made in 2002, and I want to share this with you beforehand. Um, Again, I don't know who the parents are, these parents that he's talking to, because um, I will just give me a second and I'll tell you, because I didn't think about looking this up to, and of course it's not found. Um, hmm, let's see. It doesn't say who the parents were in this, because, but anyway, he made a quote, and I'm assuming that okay, he made a quote to one of the, to, I'm not sure which parents. So in 2002, this was his final words before he died, and I'm going to go off here, and I want to read this quote to you. It says, Jerry and Shirley, I didn't kill your daughter. The prosecutor knows that. And they left the real killer out there on the streets to kill again and again and again and again. And that was what he said in 2002. I'm assuming before they put him to death. And yeah, I wanted to share that with you. I'm sorry. I went all off crazy about that. All right, after Krista's body was found, they placed a $10,000 reward for information about the abductor. And eventually that led to Robert Anthony Buell, who was 44 at the time, in 1982. 1984. No arrests had been made for 2 years. Nothing. It was just like it was cold for 2 years. Now, this is where it gets really, really funny. Or really, really, this man was employed by the state of Ohio for the public crap. I want to say, oh, he was employed by the state for in the planning department. Okay. Now, I don't know anything. I don't know what exactly the planning department or any planning department in any state does. I'm assuming that would be kind of like, planning, where I don't know. I'm I don't follow that kind of thing. So yes, I'm clueless on that part, guys. Sorry, I don't understand what that means. um, let's see. Now, the only reason that they caught him, okay, was because in 1984 he kidnapped a 28-year-old woman while she was working as a manager at an Oregon gas station in Damascus, Ohio. He had shaved her head. She was shocked with severed electrical cords. I guess before they had tasers. I don't know if that, if that was his purpose, and, don't know. She was beaten, and she was bound to Buell's bed, and that's where he raped her. Now, she was able to escape 12 hours later, and because she feared for her life, which obviously, I would too, especially if you're, tied to this man's bed, and he's not there, he's at work, which again, that totally, just makes me sit and go, what? And shake my head, because this man, is committing these major crimes, and then he turns around and goes to work. It's okay. Of course, she left after he went to work, so she was able to go and notify the police, and this is how they put him, or how he was put on their radar, because she escaped. Um, Now, it says here that such a man had previously preyed on Ohio women who were usually in their late 20s to early 40s. Then they compared the orange carpet fibers that from Krista Harrison's body to a van that he owns that was the same color, and they matched. Now, the only thing different about the van was the rear view windows had been misplaced, or had been replaced. And they didn't have the round windows, so he replaced them with different windows. Now, why, I don't know. Probably something happened, or maybe one of his victims fought to a point that they broke the glass. You don't know. It doesn't tell you. It was later concluded that the fibers that were on Harrison's body were a match from records from Sears indicated that Buell did purchase a car seat. Now I'm trying to see if this is the car. Now this is what I'm trying to understand. Is this car seat a car seat for children, or what exactly? I don't know. It doesn't tell you what kind of car seat it is. It just makes it. I'm assuming. I don't know. I have no clue. Which I think, and again, I think this is kind of, he's making a lot of mistakes on his part, because number one, he left some evidence at near Krista's dump site, and then, of course, he goes and buys this car seat, and really, of course, some criminals just don't think when they do this, but then again, I don't know. Now that he purchased, he says that need copy. Let's see. He had purchased the same type of car seat that had once contained the bag in the box, and that was used to conceal the body. Now, there was paint found on his jeans that were found near where Krista was found, and it came from his house. Again, I will say this again. Why would you leave evidence near where you dump the body, knowing that the body could possibly be found? This all just makes no sense to me, because, you do this, you commit this crime, you kill this little girl, you strangle her, and you rape her, and then you're going to, leave stuff there or near where she was found, knowing that it could possibly be found. I'm so confused. But then again, I don't, common sense. So, the jeans themselves were similar to the other pairs that he already owned. So right then and there, no, they weren't the same exact kind, but they were similar enough to have the police go, uh-huh. So right there, that tells me, again, he just wasn't thinking when he tried to get rid of, evidence, and of course, try to get rid of uh, the clothes that he was wearing that, could have blood and so forth on them. That just, okay. Um, then a fingerprint was found on the plastic that was wrapped around Harrison's leg, Krista's legs, and it didn't match uh, Buell at all. So that's the only thing that kind of is kind of like I guess one for his side because there wasn't a fingerprint there. But again, that doesn't mean that he didn't do this. Somebody could have, you know, wrapped her up for him or could have been working with him. And that's what the police, start to look into, that there is possibly somebody that was involved with him. Now, he pled no contest to this, to the rape and the abduction of the adult victim. And he even denied um, having any kind of involvement in Krista's murder. Even though he was found guilty, um, he was found guilty after being tried and sentenced to death in 1984, and eventually he died by lethal injection in 2002. Uh, he still denied involvement and was never charged with Tina Harrison's murder. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I get this. Okay. Although there were there was dog hairs that belonging to the remains of one that was found at his residence, and it was buried. But in 2010, they compared the crime scene of Tina's murder to Buell's DNA and indicated that he was the one that was most likely um, involved in her rape and more than likely her murder. Now, as I was reading this, I thought, he's had to have done this more than just, twice. Because, common sense, this man just doesn't, up and do this out of, just, but then again, you never know. So he's done this before. They found another victim that was murdered in 1983. Deborah K. Smith, age 10, had wax on her body that was from the same kind of candles that Buell owned. Her body was found a month after her death and was abandoned on the side of the Tuscarawas River. Okay, don't know if I pronounced that right, but, I'm sorry. Bear with me. Um, da, 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 da. Now, there was a journalist that used to work for the Cleveland Scene magazine, claims that, or has written that Buell's nephew, Robert Ross Jr., may have played a role in the murders, if not fully responsible. So again, they, like before, they found fingerprints that did not belong to Buell on the plastic that had Krista's body wrapped in, or was wrapped around her legs. So that was, that's always of course, they're saying that, his nephew could be the one that did this, which is possible. Um, he's also been connected to cases of unsolved murders of a 13-year-old, a 13-year-old, Barbara Barnes, and a 10-year-old, Amy, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. And there were similar fibers were found um, on Amy's body that were found on Krista's body. So, okay. So there's a lot of connections, but then again, he's still saying that he didn't do any of this, and um, and he's telling, the parents, I didn't do this. I never did this. Um, now we're going to talk about him. And I didn't really get into him because I kind of was waiting for that to come out. And even though I did mention him, with Krista's case, but again, this is like 2 in 1. So you're going to get 2 for the price of 1 today. I hope you all enjoy that. The Robert Anthony Buell, he was born in 1940 in September, and of course was put to death in 2002. And as I said before, he was a former worker, or he worked formerly for the planning department in, excuse me, for the state of Ohio. He was executed on September the 24th, 2002, and his last meal. Now, don't laugh, because I kind of sat here and laughed when I read this. His last meal. Now, mind you, I've read and listened to cases on, podcasts, and read cases where their last meal is something, like fried chicken or something like that. No, this guy wanted a black unpitted olive. Just one. That's it. That's all he wanted. Which I thought was like, okay. But hey, okay. Maybe he was doing it because, he was afraid I don't know. Now, let's see. Now, like I said, there was strong evidence that did tie him to Krista's death, and to 4 other deaths. Now, he was only charged with Krista's murder, and he was sentenced on April the 11th, 1984, 18 years later. 18 years later, he was executed, but he still denied having anything to do with her murder. He still denied any involvement right up until the time that they, inducted him. And I'm assuming the quote that I quoted to you earlier that he, said to the parents, I'm assuming that he was, now after reading that, I'm assuming that he was talking to Krista's parents. And now he's had 5 victims. I've told you guys wrong. He's had 5 victims. And his penalty was 121 years in prison. And basically he was put to death in 2002. And there were three other girls that he did this to besides the 28-year-old woman. They were Tina Marie Harmon, age 12, Deborah K. Smith, age 10, and Kelly Prosser, age 8. Now, they were all done, these crimes all were done between 1980 and 1983. And he was caught then, 2 years later, or a year later. Let's see. Okay, now of course, his final words. Now he was sent. Now I'm going to read this to you. This is coming from another article I found. He was sentenced to die for the murder and sexual assault of Krista Harrison. Krista was playing at a neighborhood park in 1982. In an interview last year with the Akron Beacon Journal, Buell said he was at work with when Krista Leah was abducted and that a serial rapist remains on loose. So basically, he is still denying anything. I mean, okay, I don't know. I mean, this is one of those cases like, who knows? But he, let's see. All right, now somewhere along the line, hypnosis comes into this. Don't ask me why. I don't know what this came from, but I just thought this was interesting. The judge in the case ruled that neither the disclosure that the witnesses had been hypnotized nor the suppression of hypnotically refreshed testimony would have created a reasonable probability that the result of Buell's trial would have been different. Now, are they saying that they want to hypnotize him to see if he, comes out and does this because maybe he blocked it out? I don't know. To me personally, how can you block something out when, number one, you kidnap a 28-year-old woman, take her to your home, tie her to your bed, and then proceed to assault her? And then she escapes and identifies him? I'm just... Okay. And then still deny Tina, and still deny Krista's, being involved in Krista's murder. Which, again, like I said, is possible because, number one, they found that they still have the partial print that isn't his. But yet all the other evidence, is mounted up against him. So, I don't know. But this was just, I wanted to do this case because, like I said, most of these children are around the age of Skylar. And anytime that I see a case that involves a child or, watch something like even on Criminal Minds, it kind of just, I don't watch them, or I, just kind of watch them and it tugs at my heartstrings because, as a mother, you always have that, you know what I mean? So it was kind of one of these cases, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this, talk about this case today, because it was just kind of one of those things where I was like, I don't know if I can do this because, this is a sad case because all these poor children, but I was kind of trying to find the name of the person that did commit this, not getting to, about Krista. But I'm glad I did because, it was all just kind of sad. And, but that's it for today, guys. I really, really appreciate, you listening. Like I said, always say, I enjoy doing these things. I love true crime. I watch it, when I can find it on Netflix or wherever, or even Hulu. And it just amazes me. Don't ask me how I got into it because I don't know, but I really enjoy doing these. So I hope everyone enjoyed it as much as I enjoy bringing it to you. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, for cases, please post them below, and I will, answer back when I can. And I hope everyone has a great week. And I will see you all next time. And thank you for watching.